excited to be with you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. And thank you. Thank you for having the courage to stay with children first and to stay with yourself and your commitment to making a difference. Thank you for doing that in the hardest of times. We're not going to really talk about trauma because you guys are experts on trauma, right? I'm not going to talk about it as our primary focus, but we are going to focus on how this man in the 14th century, whose name was Hafiz, and he said this wild thing, and I want to ask you, what do you think about it? I named my book after what he said. And here's what he said. What do you think? He said, ever since happiness heard your name, it's been running through the streets to find you. Now, was he crazy? Is that bizarre? How could happiness be running through the streets to find you when all these things are going crazy? How many of you, for example, were unable to be with the children in your classroom? How many of you had to go from in-person, people to people, face to face, heart to heart, spirit to spirit, being with other people to being isolated? I have a friend who, on the West Coast, when I said to her, you know what, okay, it's lockdown and we need to be socially isolated. She stopped me in my tracks. She's a really good friend. We can be really honest with each other. Dr. Deborah Renetta Sullivan. She said to me, Holly, Elissa, please don't ever again say social distance. Say physical distance. Can you get why that is so important? It got me right away. It got me right away. In Head Start, we are not socially distant. We are connected. Healing comes through healthy connection. Trouble comes out of disconnection. Think for a moment on a time when you have felt truly connected with somebody else in your life, when you felt like somebody got you, somebody understood you, or perhaps you got somebody, you understood them. Reflect for a moment on that connection and the joy that comes from connecting. And so that's what Children First is all about. And we connect in the hardest of times as well as the best of times. You know, Dickens said this back in the 19th century, right? He said, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And we're going to ask you through the questions that Evan is putting up for you, as you look back to help us look forward. What would you say? What do you feel? What do you believe about having lived through? Because you're here to tell about it today. What have you learned? What have you taken away from these dark times? And I see people just coming in and coming and going. And so I'm going to ask Evan in a minute to tell us what that first poll said. Before we get there, I just want to end up saying this to you. Happiness is running through the streets to find you, even in the darkest of times. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Or am I being a Pollyanna, sort of one of those white ladies who says, oh, it's all going to be okay when it isn't okay? That's not my intention. My intention is to say, you have inner strength. You have a core, dedicated, forever love inside you. And that's what I believe hard times calls out. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is how in the hardest of times, how when you could probably go across the street and get a job paying more money to do less human work, to do work that doesn't involve all of the complexity of working with children. How can we say it's still a really good time? And here's what Thoreau said. I'm coming to you from near Boston, Massachusetts. What Thoreau said, you guys know Henry David Thoreau, he said, I do not want to come to the end of my life only to discover that I have not lived. You got that? At the end of our lives, it's not about what the style of car was that we had. It was not about where our kids went to college. It's not about whether we have any money in our bank account. It's about, truly, I'm going to ask you, what is it about? Just type in, what's it about? What do you want to be remembered for at the end of your life? And if you're willing to, just type that into chat. In the chat. Don't worry about getting it right or wrong. But what is it? What is it that you want to be remembered for at the end of your life? What is it you want to be remembered for? I mean, I don't think anybody's going to remember your address. I mean, maybe your kids will. But who's going to remember how much money or not you had in your bank account? Who's going to remember what kind of car you drove? Who's going to remember whether you had dental implants or not? Nuh-uh. The question becomes, and I'm going to ask Evan or maybe Bridget. Hey, Bridget, can you take a look at what folk are saying about what they want to be remembered for? And I'd like to hear what they're going to say. And here's what the end of the sentence. Go ahead, sweetie.
Supporting others, what I did for others, my family, making a difference in someone's life, happiness, that I lived a life that pleased the Lord. I want to be remembered for the impact I left, supporting others, my smiling face, shining the light of love, being a good friend, a good mom, a person, my commitment in love to children, love and kindness, being kind, bringing joy to others, passion and caring for the work I do and the families and friends I love, being a light.
Beautiful, Bridget. I'm going to ask you right now. You don't have to answer and don't worry about getting it right or wrong, but sweetheart, what do you want to be remembered for?
I wrote that I wanted to be remembered for my passion for the work that I do and the love that I have for family and friends.
And guys, if you can, you know how to do reactions here? Raise your hand. I'm looking for reactions. Raise your hand if you think that Bridget is doing that, because that's what I observe about her all the time. Yeah, honey, the hands are going up, Miss Bridget. And so the greatest thing we'll ever learn is what? To love and be loved in return. And so how many of you are saying in one way or another, I want to be remembered for caring about people and for my love making a difference to them. And Miss Stacy, I think I see Stacy there. Girl, I put you on the spot. You can say, get out of my face, get out of my nose, whatever you need to say. But I want to ask you, Stacy, when you come to the end of your days, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, all my life I've either taken care of old people or children. So I guess at the end of my life, I want to be known that, you know, I held the hand of a person that might be dying, or I gave that hug to a child who might not have had any other human touch that day. I'm a caregiver.
You are a caregiver, and the hardest thing, and that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing. And the hardest thing, are you with me? The hardest thing, according to the research and according to the truth of our own hearts, is to take care of ourselves and to give care to ourselves. Stacy, do you know?
Amen. Amen.
Yep. And why is that, guys? Why are we so willing to step up and hold the hand of someone who's hurting? And yet when we're hurting, we don't do that so much. Anybody got the answer to that?
I know that sometimes when I'm hurting, if I can go to someone else that's hurting and make them feel better, a bit of my hurt goes away. Yes. That sounds ridiculous, but that's the way I feel.
Stacy, you nailed it. And everybody else, I know, thumbs up if you know what Stacy's talking about here. It's the truth. The research shows if we can extend our hearts to other people and lift up other people, that lifts us up. The challenge to us at Head Start is, do we do so much caregiving for others that we leave ourselves out? And honestly, my friends, that's one of the consequences of trauma. People who have experienced trauma, lived through trauma, whether as children or adults, we tend not to want to feel the pain. And what I've learned, ready for this, guys, with my purple hair, I'm 75 years old. One of the things I've learned in my 75 years is I need to stop. I need to stop, not run from the sadness, but to say, yes, today I'm sad. I'm very sad that my last living uncle, Arturo Bruno, died. And I know some of you have also lost people during the lockdown. He died the first week of the pandemic. And my immediate response was to go to be with his wife Conchetta, to hug on her. I was all ready to get on an airplane the next morning. And I woke up the next morning and I had prayed and I said, Holly, Elissa, it's not about you. It's about two things: honoring the people who are hurting the worst and honoring yourself so that you can keep being present to other people and to yourself. And so I did not get on an airplane. I grieved, I cried, I wrote, and Conchetta, I called. It didn't feel like the same thing. But in the end, people, do you believe people know when we're there for them? You know, just hands up, thumbs up. Do people know when you're there for them, whether you can be there physically or not? I mean, what a struggle this pandemic was, right? And Bridget, if people are answering or writing anything in the chat, please let me know. I believe, and the research on neuroscience says this, that our heartbeat, ready for this, guys? I'm going to invite you to stretch your arms out on both sides. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to, but stretch your arms out, move them around a bit. Okay, I'm making sure that my blouse is buttoned here. Okay, move them around now. Stretch to the right, stretch to the left. Some of us have been sitting for a while. Okay, do a little flying. You're flying. Okay, and now reach up to the heavens. Ooh, reach down to the earth where we're grounded. And one more time, stretch out your fingers from index finger to index finger as far as you can. Who knows what distance it is between one index finger and the other index finger? Can anybody tell me? And if you can, just write it in the chat. And guess what? Bridget, anybody got it? Here's what I learned. I didn't know this. Okay, take your hands down, shake your arms, shake them all about. Yeah, honey. Because
Someone says the length of your body. The length of our body.
Thank you, you guys. See, I learned this recently. I didn't know this, but between the end of one fingertip to the other is the length of our body. So I'm 5, I used to be 5'5.5", now I'm 5'5". Here's what the Institute for Heart Math says about our hearts. You ready for this? How many of you believe when you hold a child that the child can feel your love? How many of you believe when you look into the eyes of someone that that person can tell in a heartbeat if you truly care? How many of you believe that just sitting beside someone who's in a hospital bed and you're told person doesn't know you're there? How many of us believe that person knows? Well, thank you. Here, I see the lights going on. Here's the research on that, my friends. Our heartbeat, without using one word, communicates up to 5 to 10 feet away from us how we are feeling. And we either communicate, yes, come sit beside me. I'm glad you're here. We don't have to say much, but I'm just glad to be with you. Or your heartbeat, in a heartbeat, communicates to other people. You get any closer, I'm gonna smack you upside the head. How many of you have had a parent walk in the classroom and you know that parent's ready to take your head off? And you also know why the parent's going to take your head off, because why do parents yell? Not every one of them, but how many of us have not had a parent yell at us? It's kind of a small percentage. Parents, why do parents yell at Head Start folk in particular, and actually at all early childhood teachers? What's that about? And Ms. Stacy, who's on the team here, what are people saying, if you're willing to read that? Stacy, the HR lady, what are folks saying about why is it that people feel they can take out their anger on us? Stacy, got anything that folk have said or that you want to say? Go ahead, please.
Because we are safe. They feel safe with us.
And Stacy, is that true for you? Do you think that's the truth?
I believe so.
And can you tell us why you believe that?
Because 1, I give them my attention. 2, I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to ask questions. 3, I'm going to be consistent in whatever I say to you.
Thank you, Miss Stacy. And guess what the research says, my friends? This is powerful stuff. It says people who are going through a hard time need three things. One, they need you to see them, to see that they're in front of you and that they're feeling in front of you. Two, they need you to hear them, connect with their soul. They might be saying one, and I'm going to ask Stacy about this in a sec. They might be saying one thing with words, but their heart is saying something else. Stacy, have you ever seen that where somebody might be yelling at you, but something else is going on beneath the surface? And the third thing that person needs is to be loved and accepted just for who she is, not a performance of who she's supposed to be. Stacy, have you ever had somebody like screaming at you or angry with you, and then you waited a few heartbeats and something else happened and your intuition was right? They're not angry with you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that, if you're willing to?
Well, when they came in, they were very highly emotional. And their voice was really, really raised. And I said, first, let's close the door. And I said, before you say another word, just breathe. Breathe in and out, breathe. And then I said, now, what's going on?
And what did you discover? Of course, not revealing any confidence, but what did you discover about what was really going on?
Their feelings were hurt.
Yeah. How many of us, I'm going to ask Ms. Maria. Thank you, Stacy. Maria, are you with us? And Maria, is the person who I love and have met because you're the head of home visitors, and you've worked with Head Start for Children First for so a long time. You've seen a lot, just like Stacy has, and all of you have. Maria, have you ever had a parent yelling at you, allegedly angry, seeming angry, but something else was going on? And if so, what did you do to help that parent connect with you rather than take out her anger at you?
Yes. I have a parent that was very angry and very frustrated and upset with different things that happened to them. Came to me and she was yelling, but I opened my door and I say, come, I'm willing to hear you. What is going on? Why are you like that? And if I can help you, I will do it. I will do my best to help. I will do my best. And I was listening to her without any comment. I only let her to talk and say what she wants to say. And at the end, we were talking about, and she was more, after that, she was calmed down. She was more, she was willing to also hear us and how we can finalize doing any solution to her.
Maria, thank you so much. And I think that Stacy and Maria have spoken for all of us, right? When people are upset, they're upset with us because they know we will listen. They know we're safe. They know that we care. And when we really listen with our hearts, we know what's going on beneath the surface. I've had parents yell at me because their partner's just lost a job and they don't know how they're going to pay for anything. I've had parents upset with me because their partner is an addict and they can't do anything about it. No 12-step group has healed their partner because partner won't go. I've had parents yell at me because their children have some kind of challenge, like my children, especially my son has, and nobody understands the child. Yeah, parents yell because they need someone who can believe in them, and then their hearts open up. And that's what it's about, my friends. It's opening our hearts to accept and love and care deeply about what everybody's going through, and to accept what they say because it's true for them. So look, I want to thank you. Thank you, Children First team. Thank you for bringing hope to a topsy-turvy world. And thank you for calling on hope to translate trauma's harsh legacy into healing. And I'm going to ask, how about Bridget? I'm going to come back to you, sweetie. Would you select someone to tell us, what did Fred Rogers Fred Rogers, what did he say to us about how to work with those children?
Sure.
World
Bonnie, would you mind reading Fred Rogers' quote?
Thanks, Bonnie.
And many times throughout their lives, children will feel their world has turned topsy-turvy. It's not the ever-present smile that will help them feel secure. It's knowing that love can hold many feelings, including sadness, and that they can count on the people they love to be with them again until the world turns right side up again.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. And you do not have to answer because this is really putting you on the spot. But if you are willing to answer, can you tell us the name of somebody that has been with you throughout your life, through thick and thin? Somebody that has been with you, not saying, oh, it's all good when it isn't all good. It's not faking it, but someone who honors you and your feelings, who stands by you. Can you tell us the name of that person or one of those people?
One of them is my mom, and she's no longer with us. And now it's David, and he's my husband.
And what was her name?
My mom's name is Eleanor.
Let us all take a moment to thank Eleanor for all the love that she gave and still gives. And I want to thank each one of you for all the love that you gave and still give. That's what makes the world, which is so topsy-turvy, turn around right for children. Because look, it's not Fred Rogers. He's the one that said, what do I do with the sad that I have? What do I do with the mad that I have? How do we help children through this crazy world? What do you say to a child who says, I want to go see my Nona. I can't see her. I can't hug her. I hug her every weekend. I want to go see my best friend, Milagros. I cannot see her. What's going on? How do we let those children know that the love is still there, even though it's especially hard because we can't touch each other? We can't touch each other. So that, remember that research about putting your arms out? It has been proven. And if you go to the Institute for Heart Math, you will see the charts and the graphs that show people within 5 feet of you can feel your heart. You know that saying about you look through someone's eyes to see through to the soul? Well, guess what? We touch each other with our hearts all the time. And isn't that what Head Start is about? It's the supporting of people so that they can unfold to become who they were meant to be. And that's true for adults, not just kids. Okay, thank you so much, Bonnie, for reading that. And I'm going to ask Maria, could you choose someone to read this, which is a very simple statement, but not to be forgotten, because sometimes all it takes, and you guys know this, is to just be there with the person. Be there loving the person. Maria, who would you choose for this?
Yes. Kwame, can you please read the slide?
Thanks. Thanks, Kwame.
Sometimes the only answer people are looking for when they ask for help is that they won't have to face the problem alone. Mark Amend.
Thank you, Kwame. Have you seen this true with children, where sometimes they just need somebody beside them?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Can you give us an example, sweetie, of when you know just somebody's presence made all the difference in the world?
When we have actually, I have a child that I'm working with right now whose mom is not, she's incarcerated, and he is with family member. And his attendance is a little inconsistent, but when he comes to school, he loves being at school. I mean, he loves being at school and being with his teachers and his friends at school, and we just enjoy seeing him there whenever he's there. I mean, he absolutely loves being at school and being with his friends, and you'll never know that this child is having problems in his personal life that he's having when he's there at school with us.
Oh, I love that, Kwame. Thank you so much. And I think, Kwame, for how many of you raise your hand if Kwame spoke for you? How many of us have seen children that come from great sadness, and yet, when they walk through the doors, all they want to do is, with their snotty nose, just would give us a big hug and kiss. You know, got boogers coming out the nose, they want to give us a big kiss. I do not care. I love it. I love it. Because children are coming to a place where they are fully accepted for who they are. And that is what really matters. I'm going to ask you, look at this saying. It's from a social service agency in Buffalo, New York. Maria, can you read that statement on the left-hand side about does life get the best of you?
Yes. Does life get the best of you or the best you?
What do you feel about that, Maria? When things are really hard, and I know you've worked with families that didn't have food, didn't have diapers, didn't have transportation, and you showed up at their door with food, with transportation, and mostly with love. What is it in you, Maria, that allows the hard times to bring out the best in you?
I think the gratitude that we have for everything that we have. I think the job that we do as a family advocates, seeing those parents with the needs and giving to them what they need, and we were able to help them in the moments that they needed, is for us one of the most how I can say wonderful feelings. I see the family advocates when they are able to give the families the food, the diapers, the cover their rent that they have been able to do it, and during the pandemic, everything that we are able to do for them make us a better human beings.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much. And Maria, would you call on somebody else to read the quote by Desmond Tutu on the right-hand side for us?
Yes. Yesenia, can you please help read this one? Thank you.
And yep, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all the darkness. Desmond Tutu.
Do you believe that's true, Yesenia?
Oh, yes.
And have you seen that recently?
Well, we're just trying to come out of the darkness. But I'm sure that the only way that we've been able to do that is by seeing some light through the process and appreciating that, looking at the positives, focusing on that, and continue towards the light.
Yes, and remember the old-fashioned children's fairy? It was a story that we used, thank you, sweetheart. We used to tell children about Humpty Dumpty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, can somebody tell us what happened to Humpty Dumpty?
Well,
poor thing, he had a great fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't do what? They couldn't put him back together again. Sometimes when children and families go through hard times, they get the sense that they are broken. I believe that they're broken into wholeness. I believe that it's the cracks in the pottery where the light can shine through. In fact, there's a process. You guys might have heard of this. There is a process in Japan where a piece of pottery breaks. Do you know what those artisans do? They take molten gold and they put the piece of pottery back together with those gold seams so that the crack, the break can be seen, because the break is to be honored. The place of the vulnerability is to be honored. And I've always loved that when we, and in fact, here's something that a priest said. He said, We are the most spiritual where we are the most broken. Does that make sense to anybody? We're the deepest, we're the most spiritual where we are the most broken. Here's another fact. How many of you have a really deep and wonderful laugh? I mean, you can really belt it out, right? And guess what? Our laughter comes from the same depth as our sorrow. The more deeply we can laugh, the more deeply we can feel, the more deeply we have been wounded. And so all of these hard times that we go through, they can give us more strength. And that's the message of today. And I'm going to ask Ms. Evan, my buddy there, can you tell us what sense you've made of some of the polls that we took in the beginning?
Okay, well, the first poll, we had 95 people vote, which is 75% of us. And there were 3 options. We had 14% said they are most effective at problem solving in an environment of chaos or during uncertain times. The majority, 67%, said it depends. And 19% said they feel they are most effective when times are secure and predictable.
Thank you so much. Ms. Evan, what do you make of that?
Well, I sure know I would have picked the middle option as well. So I think a lot of us feel like it just really depends on the situation. And I know that's true for me.
And guys, we've all been through situations. We're all still going through situations, right? We don't get a choice about situations. I mean, oh my goodness, the latest serenity prayer is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know what that one is me. In the worst of times, I can either see that glass as being half empty or half full. And I can see myself, back to this thing about giving ourselves a hard time. I can see myself as either having strengths I can offer in my imperfection, or I ain't got nothing to offer. And trust me, if I believe I ain't got nothing to offer, I don't. It's in there. I have shut off the light. How many times a day do you turn on the light for other people? I'm going to invite you guys, can everybody take a look at this picture? When you look back at 2021 so far, in a word or a phrase, I'm going to ask you to type this in for Ms. Bridget. In a word or a phrase, how would you describe what 2020 and 2021 was like for you? And don't worry about getting it right or wrong. Just type in word or phrase. What on earth, what on earth has this year been like? I mean, you know, I've done this a number of times. One time I just typed in cray, 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 overwhelmed, OMG, sometimes LMAO. Yeah, so keep typing in. Yeah, good. We got 83 people. Roll it, roll it, roll it. I want to hear what you're saying.
Transitional, tumultuous, chaos, uncertainty, self-reflecting, challenging, a roller coaster, life-changing, new directions, unexpected chaos, mixed emotions, chaotic, a transition, stressful, constantly holding my breath, crazy, undescribable, family time, one giant test, lonely, cuckoo, uncertainty, different, crazy chaos, survival mode.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much. And Bridget, if there were one word or phrase that comes up for you as you read all those, what is it?
I think what I liked best here was transitional and mixed emotions, life-changing, but new directions. You know, I'm trying to, like you say, look at the glass half full versus half empty, because it's really easy for me to go that route. And so one of the things that this has been for me is to just try to remain positive and laugh. Definitely try to laugh through things when you can.
My friends, there are 3 things we can do to get ourselves out of the dark place. And how many of us have been in the dark place? Who hasn't been in the dark place? It's natural. It's as natural as is the light. The 3 things we can do in a heartbeat. Remember, the heartbeat communicates how we feel. The 3 things we can do in a heartbeat. Number 1, Bridget just nailed it, laugh, especially laugh at ourselves. How many of you have got something when you think of yourself to laugh about? What? I got a bunch of those, honey. I can get up in the morning. Like I said, I'm 75 and I can look in the mirror and I can say, what am I doing with a zit? I'm 75. What's this zit about? You know, I can be like, ew. Or I can step back and I can say, girl, with your double chin and your gray hair, you're pretty hot for 75. And then I start laughing at myself because why not? Why not say that? What other 75-year-old do I know that is crazy enough to have purple hair? And I have people that are 85 years old coming up to me and saying, I love your hair. I wish I had the courage to do that. Well, do you think they could have the courage to do that? I think it's in them. I think it's in them. And I have little kids coming up to me asking me if I'm a unicorn. Because I'm so colorful. I love all this stuff. So in a word or phrase, what has 2020, 2021 been to you? It's been the worst of times, the best of times, and honestly, it's been a gift. And take a look, maybe not a happy gift, but there's always something to be learned. I love the phrase, it's not a failure, it's not a mistake if I can learn something from it. Does that make sense to you? When I think about the hardest things and the mistakes I've made, I usually feel so ashamed of myself because as a trauma survivor, I was taught, I'm not going to say this like it was said to me, but you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know, what's wrong with you? That was never what's right with you. It's what's wrong with you. And yet, all of those things have helped me understand and go more deeply. So here's another question for you guys. It's in blue. Let's see. Kelly, I see Kelly F. Can you just read us that second question? It's halfway down in blue.
What has happened? What's one thing you have experienced to happen in 2021 that did not?
Okay, guys, so here's the question. What's one thing you expected to happen in 2020, 2021? It did not happen. How many of you guys were going to take a vacation someplace? How many were going to have a family reunion? How many were going to have a special gathering like a wedding? How many of you were going to have grandchildren that you were going to be with in the hospital when the baby was getting born? OMG. How about you, Ms. Kelly? Is there anything you expected that you're willing to say in 2020, 21 that could not happen? And you can pass, Kelly, if you don't want to share anything, but it's okay.
I'm just thinking. I would just want to say that it was stressful, and but I learned from it. I learned a lot on how to do things with the computer, but it was also stressful for me. But I kept saying I'm going to do my best that I can do. And you did. And thank you for that. How many of you besides Kelly and me felt like, OMG, I can't connect with kids through this Zoom? What? These little kids, they can only stay on Zoom for like 15 minutes max before they're boom, 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 boom off the screen. And yet we found ways. By the way, the 3 ways to reset our brains when we get down, which is a natural state. The first one is to laugh at ourselves. We talked about that. The second one is to sing. And the third one is to get up and move. Those 3 things take us out of that state that's taken us down and bring us back up. And think every day, those of you that work directly with children, how many times a day do you reset the classroom from exhaustion or from weariness or from a mood that might not be as productive as it could be? How many times do you reset the classroom or reset your office or reset yourself by laughing at yourself, by singing a song, or by just getting up and moving around?
You guys know what I'm talking about, right? And so 2021, tough time, also a gift. And I'm going to ask you, let's see, okay. Could you, Ms. Maria, call on someone to read this question? That's in the pink box on the right-hand side, if you can see it. Oops, you need to unmute, sweetie.
Sorry. Can please, Miss Michelle Bondi, can you read?
Thank you.
How have dark times helped you see better?
Okay. Okay. How about that one? How has going through dark times helped you see better? I'm asking that question now, and I think we're going to break into groups about that. So Evan, getting ready for the groups. But I just wanted to, you guys, because many of us are introverts and we prefer to not be put on the spot. So I apologize for doing that. Thank you for stepping up. But 51% of us in the United States are introverted, meaning we don't like to be surprised. We like to have time to think things through. So I'm going to invite you to think, how has being through dark times helped you become a better person? When you look back at 2020 and 2021, going through hard times, how has that helped you become a better person? And how, therefore, can we help children who are going through hard times feel better about themselves? So here's what we're going to talk about, my friends. We'll come back to that question, but the point here today is hope. I'm going to ask you to do something, if you're willing to. Just take your pen or type in, actually you can type this in the chat also. This is called, what is it called? An acronym, right? When you take the first letter of each, each letter of each word and spell out, starting with that letter, what that word means to you. So if you were to take the word hope, H-O-P-E, and you said H to me means happiness, O to me means opportunity, P to me means people. You see what I'm saying? So if you were to take each one of those letters of the word hope, would you put those letters in a vertical line, and after each letter, would you spell out through 4 different words what the H stands for in hope, what the O stands for, right down to what the E stands for? And you're welcome to type that in so that it can be shared, or you're welcome to just write it down. And so as you're doing that, what does hope mean to you? Because that's the message of today. We can either be fear-based, and there's plenty to be scared of. We can either be fear-based or we can be hope-based. By fear-based, I mean we're hyper-vigilant, watching for when the next problem is going to come up. And we know it's going to come up, especially if we're looking for it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Or we can look around and look up and say, wait a minute. Show me what I love. Show me something that I love. I tell you, I live near Boston, Massachusetts. I drive down the street. There's a Head Start down the street. And for the longest time, the Head Start was closed. And I used to cry because those children were not getting the love that they got. They're not getting the food that they got. They're not getting the friendships that they got. They're not getting all that social, emotional development. They're not getting to be with people that love them unconditionally. It used to break my heart. And so what I would say is I'd allow myself to feel the sadness. And then I'd say to my deeper source, I would say, would you show me something that I love? And I'd look up, and sometimes a redbird would fly right past my car. And in the snowy times up here, a redbird flying by, a cardinal, beautiful. Or I'd see kids sledding with an adult. And so it all is about how I choose to see. Do I choose to see my life as being afraid? I'm scared, nothing good is going to happen. Or I'm hopeful. If I look up, I can see something hopeful. So Ms. Bridge, is there anyone that, does anybody write in what hope could stand for to them?
Yes. Yes, humor, opportunity, perspective, entanglement, honesty, optimistic, and people person, enthusiastic. Let's see, happy, optimistic, perseverance, empathy, healthy, open, positive, energetic, heal, optimistic, perseverance, emerge.
Thanks, Bridge. We'll go with those right now, and maybe we'll come back to those. But remember, the question was, how has living through a dark time called out the best in you? And so hope is the thing that I can choose to have called out. And guys, how many of you remember Carrie Fisher? Anybody? Okay, so Ms. Evan, what do you remember? What was Carrie Fisher famous for?
I guess I'm on the younger end of the spectrum here, but I just know she was really outspoken, speaking for all the people, I would say, for minorities, for women, and especially in the industry. True.
And what's the famous role that she played in a film?
Princess Leia.
You got it. So, Evan, would you read us what she said up there? Because I'm going to tell you right now, Carrie Fisher had a rough life. She might have looked like she was wealthy and all of that, but she had a rough life. She was on an airplane one time, and you know, if you get on an airplane, they tell you, if you're not going to Milwaukee, you got to get off the plane now. She literally ran off the plane. She was going to Milwaukee, but she had such bad panic disorder. She couldn't bear it to have the door closed on her. And so what did she tell us, Evan, about when we have hard times and when we feel brokenhearted? What's that message up there in yellow?
How can you take your broken heart and turn it into art?
And Evan, I'm going to ask you, have you seen a time recently when you've been able to do that, when you've been sad, and yet out of the sadness has come either understanding or a way to help somebody?
Yes, I won't, name any names, but I know some people within our organization at Children First that are personally going through difficult times, and the work that I see them put forth every single day, even when I know that they're having a hard time, I can't even really express it. It's that human connection is very powerful.
Thank you so much. And so, Evan, can you read us what's in green below?
I do not fear the night because I have come to love the stars so much.
And there it is. There's the message of today, my friends. Take your broken heart, turn it into art. And when it's dark, take a look for the stars. I knew a Head Start director who would work 24/7. She'd get home, she'd get up in the morning and it was dark, and she'd come home at night and it was dark. And she said to herself, I am going to, every night, no matter what, look up before I go into my apartment. I'm gonna look up and see if the stars are there. By the way, my friends, this is the month of Pleiades. This is the month of shooting stars. So, okay, Stacy of HR, can you read this to us, please? What did the Lorax tell us about going through hard times?
Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not.
Amen. And I'm going to ask everybody, if you're willing to, and don't worry if you don't want to, but would everybody unmute? And Miss Stacy's going to lead us in saying this together. I'm going to join her. Evan's going to join her. Just unmute. Let's make this loud and messy, and don't worry about being coordinated. And then when you're done, go back to muting. But you know what? Here's the message of Head Start, right? If somebody's going to do the job, it's got to be all of us. So Miss Stacy, can you lead us in this? Hey, baby.
Unless
someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. No, it's not.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. There's another secret about uplifting souls. When we do things in unison, even if we don't sound great, our hearts pick up the energy of other people. That's why in church or synagogue or temple, we do a lot of things together because it's uplifting. And has this been true for you guys? Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. But when one person cares, it makes a huge difference. So look at this little guy. Type in, if you're willing to, what's he feeling like? I mean, he's getting a hug, but something's going on there. Just type in. Just type in, what are some words, and then I'm going to ask Maria to read these. What is this little guy feeling? Again, don't worry about getting it right. It's just, what do you see in his face? He's getting a hug, but it's not cutting it. Maria, what's
I cannot read it. It's something. Oh, I can read in the child face. Frustration, or yes, or anger in some way.
You got it. Look, here's the truth. Children don't lie. I mean, they learn to lie, but their bodies don't lie. Pick up a child and you can tell in a heartbeat if that child had a rough night, right? Yeah. And so, Maria, if this child came to you, what would you do with him in that moment?
Like probably I assume that is the mommy right there, giving a hug, a love, and only be with him at that moment. Just
be with him in whatever way he needs to. And maybe this little guy, if he's got the motor skills, hand him a crayon and just say, would you draw out, what are you feeling right now, if it's age appropriate? And a lot of times kids will draw the most angry mess. And then you can talk about it. It's like Fred Rogers saying, what do I do with the mad that I have? And every child has a right to be angry, sad, all of those feelings. When trauma comes up, we teach children not to have feelings. We teach them to run away from feelings. The 3 rules of dysfunctional families are don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. In Head Start, we reverse all of those. We help children learn to use words. We help them learn to express themselves. We help children learn how to trust another person. And in so doing, they learn to trust themselves. And we help children know it's okay to feel.
That is okay.
It's okay to feel. Thank you, Maria. Okay, so when the world makes no sense, what happens inside of a child? Well, look, we all know what can happen during trauma. And there are 2 ways. Trauma is either one event like 911 or a house burning down, God forbid, or being with someone who passes. But trauma can also be an ongoing series of life-threatening events. And you know what? Everybody has faced that in 2020, 2021. And what we can do if we're afraid is we can become hyper-vigilant, always watching for the next shoe to drop. We can go back in terms of our development that we've made. Adults do that as well as children. We can become needy. We can do something called dissociation, which, as you know, means I might be sitting there, but I'm not really there. I'm off daydreaming because it's too painful to be part of what's going on. So children and adults have come up with a lot of hard things during this last year and a half. And how can we help? And Ms. Bridge, would you ask someone to read what Nelson Mandela said about hope and fear?
Sure. Colleen, would you do us the honors?
May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears.
Colleen, do you think that matters?
Absolutely.
Can you give us an example of when you have chosen to do that?
Here, that's really come to the forefront for me. That we have to be positive and we have to be hopeful.
And does being positive mean faking it?
No, it has to be a genuine emotion.
Thank you, Ms. Colleen. How many of you guys agree with Colleen that we can't fake it? Kids can see right through us. Kids can see right through us. Yeah. So here's something, follow up on Carrie Fisher, and I'm going to ask Stacy, HR Stacy, can you ask someone to read us what John O'Donohue said? And this was a guy who went through a lot of depression. And what did he end up saying? And did you just read the part that says, may I have?
Sure. Miss Ernestine, can you read that for us?
Thanks, Ernestine.
Yes. May I have the courage today, postpone may I have the courage today to postpone my dream no longer, but do at least what I came here for and waste my heart on fear and no more. And I came here for and waste my heart on fear no more.
I love it. And Ms. Ernestine, do you have a sense what your honor is to do?
Help others, show kindness, show love when I can. Yeah.
You got it. And so may you have the courage today to postpone that dream of showing kindness, showing love, being true to yourself no longer. Do at last what you came here for. Waste your heart on fear no more. Have you ever wasted your heart on fear?
Yeah.
And what gets you out of that mess when you start feeling really afraid? Is there anything what do you do to lift yourself or get help lifting yourself out of fear?
Talk it through.
Mm-hmm. There it is, my friends. Healing comes through connection. Healing comes through connection. Talk it through, share the sadness, share the hope. And that will allow you to waste your heart on fear no more. Anybody else want to say, when fear is taking you over, what can you do to get out of fear and return to hope? We've talked about laughing at ourselves. We talked about singing. We've talked about dancing, going outside. Ms. Ernestine just said, talk it through with somebody. Anybody else got a tip about what you can do when you start wasting your heart on fear? And Maria, if you see something come up, can you read it to us?
Breathe.
Yes. Breathe. And I'm going to show you the brain soon to show you what happens if we just make a simple choice. But look, my friends, why on earth, given obviously I'm a colorful person, right? Why on earth would I have chosen a diamond to represent what we are like in Head Start when we've been through hard times? What children are like when they go through trauma? Why on earth would I have chosen a diamond, not a ruby, not an emerald, not a sapphire? Can somebody just step in and say, what? Why did this lady with the purple hair choose a diamond to represent what we're like when we've been through difficult times? To represent
diamonds developed through pressure.
You got it, honey. That diamond didn't start that way. That diamond was like all of us, a piece of dirt. And it got through, just like what you said, the pressure, pushed it into being hard as a diamond. And then somebody said to me when she was looking at this, she said, does this mean we become our own jewelers? What do you guys think of that? Because this diamond might have been rough, like a diamond in the rough, but somebody cut it in just a way that it would reflect light, which is another strength diamonds have. They reflect people's light back onto them. Do you think we have to become our own jewelers? Okay, Ms. Bridge, I see you smiling. What's up, girl?
I think we do, because just like you had said about the new serenity prayer, you know what you can control in yourself. So why not look at it this way and create your own gem out of your own self? So yes, I do agree with that statement.
I hear you, girl. And that's a choice. If I'm fear-based and I start beating up on myself, my energy goes right down the tube. If instead I just say, Holly, Elissa, okay, what's one thing you can offer somebody today? What's one thing? And you know what? Even if I'm feeling at my worst, I can listen to somebody. And so many of you have said that. Stacy and Maria, Bridget, you've all talked about just being there to listen to people. And so look, here's what I wrote. I'm going to tell you guys that I have something called complex post-traumatic stress disorder because I was raised in a extremely traumatized background, as many children are. It's estimated, I just read this yesterday, that every 9 minutes a child is molested. So I was, yes, sexually molested. I was beaten until I passed out. I was neglected, put in a closet. And my mother was mentally ill. She was psychotic and she couldn't be a mother. She tried, but I didn't know who she was going to be. My father was what's called a narcissist, which meant that he could only see his own needs. And I was just there to meet his needs. And I was his youngest child. And when I was born, a girl, not a boy, He said, get her out of my sight. So that was traumatizing over and over and over again. And I'm not unusual. There's so many children that are raised in settings where, through no fault of their own, the people raising the children are so wounded themselves, they cannot offer love to the children. Hurt people hurt people. Does that make sense? Hurt people hurt people. If somebody's been hurt, they know what it is to hurt, and sometimes that's all they can offer. So here's what I determined after that. I said, you know what? I could either carry this pain through the rest of my life, or I could say, look, I didn't choose that. But trauma is my most vigorous guide. It's my unchosen but compelling pathway to a life of meaning, to an uplifting appreciation of beauty. How many of you guys really know when something's beautiful and it takes your breath away still? That's a gift of being a trauma survivor. It's knowing when something in front of you is an act of the divine. It's knowing that. So it's gives us an uplifting appreciation of beauty and a deeply anchored conviction to make the world better for every child. So many of us who work with children are doing this because we want the world to be better. Okay, here's another question for you guys. Unpublished research. Just take a guess, don't worry about getting it right or wrong, and type in, if you will, into the chat, what percentage of us early childhood professionals experience trauma ourselves as children? What percentage of us, folk who chose to go into early childhood, ourselves experience trauma as children? Again, don't worry about getting it right or wrong, it's just about what's true for you. And as you're typing that in, I'm gonna move ahead to this. How do we call upon hope? Because that's what we're going to be looking at here. And remember, I asked you guys to come up with what hope was, and this is what we're going to focus on the rest of the time here. Hope stands for, we've already said, humor. It also stands for,
I guess,
originality, being true to yourself. Now, you don't have to pretend to be anybody else. Can you guys hear me? Is the host muting me?
I'm sorry, my meeting almost just glitched out completely, so I think it was going to lose us temporarily, and we're good to go. I'm very sorry.
Okay, are we coming back? Awesome sauce. Well, guys, hey, it's a time. You know what? Perfect time to breathe. Perfect time to breathe. Breathing resets our bodies from what's called the autonomic system. That's the part of our body that goes on automatic. And a lot of times, and neuroscientists are saying this, our brains reset to fear. Our brains reset to discouragement. We're always looking around to, what do I need to do next to stay safe? Well, guess what? We can choose to have our brains reset to hope. And let's look at that. So for me, H means humor. O means being true to myself, being original. P means walking up to the balcony of perspective, especially when I feel like I can't see beyond the corner. And 4, E stands for being emotionally honest. It means knowing what I'm feeling and not running away from it. And so I want to show you guys, this is what goes on in our brain. When we let fear take us over, as opposed to hope, that's what fear is on the right-hand side, is on the left-hand side. I'm going to ask everybody to mute one more time if you can, because I'm getting some background noise. Anyway, yeah, Jean, hi, sweetie. I'm glad you're there, and I think you might need to mute. Anyway, look, see all that wonderful lush red? Yeah, that's blood. And our systems, our brains need to have blood flowing throughout our whole brain to get to, you guys know about the brain. All different parts of our brain have a different function. If fear starts to take over, the blood goes right down the tube, and that's what's happening on the right-hand side. The blood goes down out of the brain into something called the amygdala gland, and that amygdala gland robs us of our perspective. In fact, here's one recent piece of research. When we let fear take over, or when fear takes us over and we don't even see it coming, which can happen, we can lose 90 to 95% of our problem-solving ability. Can you believe that? Just think about the last time you've seen someone in road rage, or you might have had road rage. Honey, when we get taken over by fear, it's not pretty. We can't think straight. And we've got those there are now 5 F's. We used to just think it was when fear takes over, it's fight or flight. Well, it's also freeze, like a deer in the headlights. It's also fawn, to try to people please the person that's hurting us, because if we can get that person off of us, maybe the person will stop being so mean or nasty. And the last one is float, and that's dissociation. So when we're scared to death, we leave, we take off, or we get into a fight and we say things we regret saying, because the blood is draining out of our brain and we could actually faint. When we're pressured enough, we can actually faint. What we need to do is make a choice to become hope-based again. And guess what? We become hope-based, the blood starts flowing into all parts of our brain. We can reclaim our sense of humor. Think of the last time when you lost your sense of humor. Not usually a pretty picture, right? Not usually a pretty picture. But if I can just do one thing, kind for another person, kind for myself, take a breath, laugh, dance, sing, reach out and ask for help. All of those things will jump me out of the brain drain into the brain reclaim. And when that happens, I become an actor, not a reactor. I've made some of my worst, toughest mistakes when I've been a reactor to life rather than a person who makes choices. Does that make sense? When we are reacting, we're not choosing. We're just like hunkered down, and that's where we lose 90 to 95% of our prefrontal cortex, which is also, you guys know, it's called the executive function. In fact, if you just rub your head right here above your eyebrows, that might feel really softening, comforting, and you can do that anytime, because that's where your hand is covering the bone that covers your prefrontal cortex. That's the most recently developed part of our brain, and that's the part of our brain that restores us, restores our souls, restores us to sanity. I've had a dear friend who has been transferred to 4 different hospitals in the last 3 weeks, and I don't know if he's going to make it or not. And so yesterday I chose to go to a concert. And when the music started playing, I just opened my heart and opened my soul and let that music fill me. People were crying. The music was so beautiful. And my soul was taking it in. And that was my best way to honor my friend. I don't have control over what happens, but I can restore my soul. I can open myself to make sure that I'm at my best. So the next time I see him, I can bring humor. I can bring a listening ear. So guys, you got it. This is the heart and soul of what goes on when we let fear take over. Post-traumatic stress disorder is when fear takes over, we can't think straight. I have that. I've got a complex from the abuse that I got. And guess what? I get a choice. I can either be scared right now, oh my God, I've only got X amount of time left, I got to do all these things. Or I can say, wait a minute, I'm loving being with these people. I hope that we're connecting. I hope we're connecting. I'm just going to ask you to type in scale of 1 to 10. If we're not connecting at all, type in a 1. Just be honest. And 10, if you're getting something out of this, type in a 10 or closer to that if you're getting something out of it. And just tell the truth, guys, because I can shift up things real fast. And so, Bridge, let me know what our scores are here. But so...
Sure. 8, 9, 10. 9, 9, 10, 8,
oh,
10.
God bless you guys. Oh, my God. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, my friends, we're going to go into the 4 parts of hope, because hope, ready for this? This is a poem by Emily Dickinson, who was made fun of because she was gay. She was different from the people in her small town of Holyoke, Massachusetts. They laughed at her, and you know what she did? She kept writing poem after poem after poem. Many of them were not read in her lifetime, but somebody discovered these. She had sewn them into a book, and they discovered all these poems, and here's one of her poems. She wrote it in her own language. How many times have we been with a child who in his own language says something crucial? And I'm going to tell you about the little child in Head Start in Massachusetts who said to his preschool teacher, "Teacher, You have a knife in your brain, just like I have a knife in my brain, don't you? Imagine if this child in your classroom or in your program said, Miss Stacy, Miss Maria, Miss Milagros, Miss Kelly, Miss Bridget, Mr. Kwame, you have a knife in your brain, just like I have one in mine, right? You know what that teacher did? And if anyone wants to just type in what you would say to that child, in fact, I'm going to ask, Bridget, could you call on someone that you know works so closely with children and that you think could tell us what she or he would do with a child who out of the blue says to the teacher, teacher, you have a knife in your brain, just like I do. Can you call on someone that might just tell us if a child's preschooler said that to her or to him, what the person would do and say?
Sure. Maria Marcillo, would you like to share?
Thanks, Maria.
If she's not there, how about Lisa Hartley?
Hey, Lisa, what would you do if this little guy, his name was Joseph, said to you, you got a knife in your brain just like I got one in mine, don't you? Don't worry about getting it right or wrong. It's just, what would you do? What would you feel? What might you say to a child that said that to you?
How about Lauren? Lauren Williams, are you out there?
I'm here.
Hey, Lauren, can you tell us, don't worry about getting right or wrong. Just, you know, this would touch your heart. I'm sure if a little guy said to you, you got a knife in your brain, just like I do. What might you do in that moment?
It would definitely touch me. And I would ask to give them a hug and to be there with them. And just get their permission of being able to comfort them and being their resource so they can move past that. And that would also help me self-reflect of how am I coming off to the children in my classroom as well.
Beautiful. Woo to you. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Because look, did you guys notice what she did? It's what you all do. She asked permission. May I touch you? May I hug you? The child feels so respected to have a choice, to have agency over her body and then, or his body, and then to feel the warmth of somebody's heart, because your heartbeat would be within 5 feet of that child and that child would feel your love. There's no mistake about it. Children feel love just like they feel hatred. That child would feel it. Here's what thank you so much. That was beautiful. And here's what, I'm sure whatever you other folk would say would be beautiful too. Here's what the teacher here said. She knew this child and she developed a relationship with him. And so she didn't immediately go into I'm a recovering attorney. Sometimes I go into I'm a mandated reporter. What am I going to do? Anybody else got that? Well, you know what? I can take a breath before I report, right? Or I could consider co-reporting with a family. But what this teacher did was brilliant. I learned from her. She said, Joseph, thank you so much for noticing. I do have a bad headache. And I've shared with the class that my mama is very ill and the doctors are feeling like they can't do anything to help her. They can just keep her comfortable. We've talked about that. And remember when your beautiful puppy, oh yeah, he was 13 years old, Horace was, but remember when he died and we talked about how we could grieve and feel sad for Horace? Well, I feel sad about my mama. And maybe later today, you and I could you get the book that we read when Horace died? And yeah, maybe we could read that together. And Joseph said, oh yeah, of course. And then here's what the teacher did. The teacher said, and I noticed, Joseph, that you also said that you have a knife in your brain. Can you tell me about that? Something's hurting you badly, like something's hurting me badly. And Joseph went on, and she was ready. The teacher was ready in all the different perceptions we have to have. She was ready to get help for the child. She was ready to know if something illegal might be taking place. She was ready for all these things, but she was there. She listened. She was present, and she cared about him, and she accepted what he said because it was true for him. And he just went on to he went on to describe about how his parents were fighting again, ever since dad lost his job and mom was working 3 jobs. And, you know, the Head Start folk had been working, the family visitors been working with the family. And so it wasn't necessarily a mandated reporting situation, but look what happened. She honored him just like you did. She honored him by listening, by being present, by letting him know she thanked him for being compassionate toward her, and then opening her heart to him. And so, my friends, I'm going to ask you this question now, and Ms. Evan, let's do 8-minute discussion, 2 minutes to wrap. And so we'll come back in 10 minutes. And my friends, what I'm going to invite you to do is go back to the question and forward to another question. And perhaps Evan can type the questions in. The question, there are 2 questions. You don't have to answer them both. Just choose whichever question, or maybe it's both, that touches your heart, touches your soul, touches your intellect, and that you feel like answering it might be sharing something important, something valuable. I'm going to ask everybody, if you can, to share with your small group and just introduce yourself. Who are you? You know, what do you do at Children First? And then choose the question or choose both questions. And as you're getting toward the end of time, if somebody hasn't shared, just check in and say, you know what, Stephen, I'd love to hear from you if you want to share, and if you don't, it's okay. But this is a time for us to come together and help each other across all kinds of lines. I mean, you're going to have home visitors talking with development people, talking with administrators, talking with teachers, talking with, you know, across the board. So here are the 2 questions. Number 1, see if I can remember it. Number 1 is, in what way has going through a hard time made you a better person? What's one way in which going through a hard time made you a stronger, better, more loving person? Okay, so first question is, looking back at these dark times, how have they made you a better person? It can be the tiniest thing, like you started cooking again, as opposed to picking up food on the way home. That's okay. Whatever's true for you is true for you. And the second question is coming up. And the second question is, it's about taking your broken heart and turning it into art. So the first question is, looking back, how has been going through this hard time made you a better person in just one way? And 2, when you look forward to this new year coming before us and these new children coming in, or these same children returning, when you look forward, how can you give back, pay it forward, doing something you've not done before because you've had this hard experience? So how have you become a better person, and how can you pay it forward because you've learned to be a better person? Got it? Those are the 2 questions. And I think that Evan, because she's way ahead of me, can type both those questions in for you. We'll do the 10-minute thing, but notice, I think we're going to have about 4 people in each group. And I'm going to ask everybody to be ready to report. And you know what? Of course, not everybody's going to get to, but just, you know, my question to you is, as you shared and as you listened, what touched you? What resonated with you? What felt true to you? And we'll keep what people are saying confidential. So we're not going to say, well, Miss Stacy said this. No. You guys know all about that. I'm just going to share, you know what? We all talked about losing somebody, and that loss was so painful. And yet it helped us remember that who's in my life right now, I'm going to love on that person. So you got it? Ms. Evan, got any other instructions for us?
No, I'm just going to move forward with putting everybody in the breakout rooms. So don't be surprised if your screen populates and you see a few different people.
Okay, and I hope you get to meet, there's never accidents, so I hope you get to meet somebody that you enjoy being with, and I might see you in a group. And don't worry about getting anything right, just be yourself. and we'll all be good. And see you back here in 10 minutes. And if
The rest of the breakout rooms will close in 20 seconds, and then the host will be back with us to continue on.
Thanks.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. How was that? Give me a thumbs up if you had a good time or you experienced something that was worth, yeah? Sideways, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. Good. Is anybody willing to, thank you for doing that. How many of you met somebody new? How many of you met somebody that you knew before? All right, so it's all mixed. Is anybody willing to unmute and just tell us the answer to either question for you or something that you learned by just being with people, something that touched your heart? And I'm gonna, as somebody's considering who's gonna go first, I'm gonna ask the woman who talked about equine, what was it called? Equine something or other. Can you tell us about that? Because I've never heard of that before.
Hi, it's Candy Xline. There's an organization here that they do resilient retreat is what it's called. And so they do some different programs, and some of them are for helping professionals, not just trauma victims. Some are just for helping professionals. So the person that runs it used to work for us. And I had reached out to her just in a joking way. I was going through some really stressful times, and I kind of reached out. I joke around with her sometimes, and they had someone had canceled one of the equine therapies, and so she asked me if I wanted to take that spot. So I was able to take that spot, and I just took every Tuesday afternoon off, and I just took care of me. It was a nice, beautiful ride out to where the horses were. And then they taught you, the different things, how you, to lead a horse, to groom the horse, how you can feel the horse's heartbeat and energy. And it was just really an experience that I would not have just reached out to do.
And what was the horse's name? Were you mostly with one horse? What was the horse's name?
He was a wild Mustang, and his name is Tank.
Tank?
Yep.
All right, here's to Tank. Thank you, sweetie. Anybody else want to say, how has going through this hard time made you a better person? What have you learned, or what's one thing you're hoping to do when you look forward to this? Yeah, go ahead, Miss Laura.
So I'm one of the vocational family advocates. So my job is to actually work with the parents. And I help them either get into school or to find a job that helps them to better support their families. And one of the things that I have found is after experiencing the pandemic, when so many people were out of employment, people are so much more motivated to want to do something more, to be more self-sufficient. And I get excited getting to help them too after experiencing this. So, it's really motivated me to be a better helper, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thank you so much. And Miss Kay Wilson, I'm looking at you, girl. I'm thinking, hello, honey bunny. Are you willing to say anything about how going through a hard time has helped you become a better person, or a way that you want to be more helpful now that you've been through this hard time?
If anything, it's just being more patient and having more understanding of certain situations. Change is always constant around us, and 2020 was a great example of that change. And just reminding myself like of triggers that may come upon me unexpectedly, and what I can do to just resolve it, personal, work, and work life all together. Just finding ways to keep me calm, because when I'm stressed and, you know, at my worst, I'm no good to anybody else, my kids, my families, my coworkers.
Thank you, sweetheart. I have one question. What's one thing you can be or do in the moment when you start feeling the panic or the stress build up? What's one thing you can do to help yourself?
I do my, I shake the funk. So you might see me busting out dancing, moving around, singing, doing something silly. That's what normally I do. I might have to get up, walk away from my desk or whatever's triggering it. But you might see me singing in the hallways, doing something silly like that.
I love it, honey. Let's give her a whoop, whoop. Thank you, honey. Hey,
You're welcome.
Breezy, I love your name, girlfriend. Is Breezy, can you tell us something that how going through this pandemic, going through this hard time has made you a better person? And when you look forward to the year to come, there's something that you think you might do differently. And that's, yeah, Breezy, hi.
Patience was a big thing that I've learned. I've got 4 kids of my own. So when everything got shut down, I was home with them, and they're all school age and they all have some sort of disability of their own. So yeah, just growing a lot of patience.
And what on earth helped you not smack somebody upside the head?
My spouse, actually. Because he had to work through the whole thing. So as soon as he got home, like, my anxiety level just completely disappeared because I had him there for help.
Oh, hey, honey, I'm glad you had him. That is so good. Oh my God, thank you. Hey, Christian, say hey, Christian Mays. Anything you want to tell us about what you've learned going through this hard time that you think will make you a better person working for Family First? And you probably always were a good person. Maybe Christian's on a break. Curtis, how about you, hon? And you know what? Passing is okay. Miss Thea T. Thea, can you tell us what's one thing, might have been hard, but that you learned through this time?
How to be patient with yourself.
And how do you do that?
It's very hard. You have to take, you have to breathe and think, reflect, do a lot of reflection.
Yeah, you know what? That breathing thing resets our brain. Humor resets our brain. Singing resets our brain. Dancing resets our brain, as one of our buddies just said, Miss Kay Wilson. But also breathing. The conscious choice to breathe in through our nose, breathe out through our mouth makes all the difference. All the difference. And as we feel that peace inside of us, it spreads out. Hey, anybody else want to say anything else? Yes, ma'am. It looks like Ms. M. Rose. Go for it, girl.
Hi, I'm Marlena. For me, when we shut down, just as background, I am like an extrovert. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 12 as an extrovert. I need to be around people. So the having shut down was a really, really, really hard thing for me. And it only took a week or so to realize that I had been depending on my interactions at work to fill the need for a social connection. And I realized that that's not what work is supposed to be.
So what did you do? Especially given the lockdown. Uh-oh, we lose you, hon?
She was having difficulty earlier. Her audio was cutting in and out.
Hey, Rose, are you still with us, honey? We just want to know, how did you get your extroverted needs met? And you got to unmute.
I reached out to a singles group through our church and got involved there. And we had activities and I got to meet people. And not only was that sustaining for me I actually have grown a lot as a person. I've got margin back in my life. I am much more confident than I was before, and I've grown a lot. So now I feel like, to answer that second question, I'm taking that confidence and that growth, and I'm able to bring that into this new school year. And I'm looking forward to being a kind of a driving force in my department.
You go, girl. Thank you so much. Take your broken heart and turn it into art. Anybody else? Thank you, sweethearts. Thank you, everybody who shared. Anybody else want to share anything before we return to wrap up? You know, we'll have time at the end too. I'm going to see if we can make that happen. So let me see where I am. Yeah, guys, what we're going to do now is, hello. Thank you so much, guys. I hope that was fun, because you know what? Got to have fun. And so look, oh my God, I asked you guys a question and didn't answer it. Remember that question about what percentage of us experienced trauma when we were kids? Miss Bridget, did you get an answer to that you can summarize for us?
Yeah, it was a lot of 80%, 75 to 80%. That was like the majority.
You guys have nailed it. Look, there's only one piece of research. It's unpublished by Jackie Taylor, and her research is very conservative. She said, Holly, Elissa, I made this the strictest possible research so nobody could try to prove me wrong. She came up with 58%, but as I've gone anecdotally around the country, it's 80 at a minimum. It's usually around 90%. So we have had sadness, and we take our broken hearts and we turn it into art. And guess what? We help each other with that. So my friends, we got, what I'm going to do now is just go through hope. And I'm going to ask if you guys can mute, and then we'll come back together at the very end. So look, the first part of hope is humor. And we talked about how powerful humor is, but let me show you what's going on with humor, because humor isn't just laughter. It's what goes on inside of us, which is actually pretty powerful. When we laugh, when we play, when we joke around, when we lighten up, that gets us right back. It re-triggers our prefrontal cortex, that executive function, and that's where we get more generous. We can be more loving. We can be more creative. We can be more problem solving. And so, if you've ever been in a meeting where everybody's going, "Oh Lord, this is boring. Get me out of here," and then someone says something funny, or you take a break and you move around and you come back, you see the world differently. So humor gets us right back into our executive function. I'm going to read this to you guys now. Like, remember how they do commercials on TV where they don't want to talk in specific, they don't want you to know about what the side effects are, so they just really fast. So guys, being playful, it's the brain's jungle gym. Play, I'm going to read it to you like now, one of those commercials. Play selectively stimulates nerve growth. Got that? When we laugh and play, we grow new brain cells. We used to think that we came to the earth with X number of brain cells and we just kept losing them. No. We can now build new brain cells. That's so encouraging, especially to me as a trauma survivor. Like, oh man, I can grow this new, I can just, laughter's going to get me there. So here we go. Ready? Play selectively stimulates nerve growth in the dorsal, and if you get an erection that lasts for more than 4 hours, you better give it up, because you're not getting into any ER, because the ERs are full and you might have COVID, so never mind. And where decisions are processed. Now, if anybody smiled at that, good, because guess what? If you smile for 1 minute, and I used to work at University of Maine with a professor who would give those old-fashioned wooden pencils to his students, and he'd say, write down how you're feeling, and then chomp on that pencil. Guess what? 1 minute of smiling, even if it's a forced smile, releases endorphins. So not only is laughter helping us reset our brains, but the endorphins are coming out. So it's a win-win situation. So, hey, you know this guy, Dr. Stuart Brown? He's 88 years old. He wrote the book on adults and play. And guess what he said? What's the opposite of play? Anybody want to just quickly type that in? What did Dr. Stuart Brown say is the opposite of play? Just type that in. And as you're doing that, I want to tell you, this 88-year-old guy lives in California. And guess what? His office is in a treehouse. This man climbs a treehouse, 88 years old, up in the treehouse every day. That's how he plays every day. So guys, what's the opposite of play? Hey, Bridge, tell, or you know what? I'm going to ask Stacy from HR. Can you tell us what folk are saying?
They're saying work, sleep, boredom, lethargy.
Thank you, sweetie. The majority of people say that four-letter word beginning with W, and it's the first thing he said, Stace, work. Guess what? Dr. Stuart Brown says the opposite of play. If we don't play and we don't laugh, it's what you then said, Stacy. He said it's depression. It's depression. If we don't laugh at ourselves, we don't play, we start going down the tubes. We lose hope, we get fear-based. Stace, can you read us what he said here about when people are able?
When people are able to find that sense of play in their work, they truly become powerful figures.
Now, Ms. Stacy, have you ever found that true for you? Because I know you work hard, and I know you're dedicated, and I know you get the job done. But when has laughter and play helped you get through the day?
I laughed at myself quite often.
Girl, I believe you. When I first met Miss Stacy, I just want to say, no offense whatsoever, but we were all looking serious because we hadn't met before. And Miss Stacy, what did I say to you if you're willing to share about RBF?
I didn't know what it was. It took Bridget to tell me what it meant. That I had a RBF.
How many of you guys raise your hand if you know what RBF is? Okay, Stace. So what's an RBF? You can say it however you feel is appropriate.
That resting bona fide face.
Resting rhymes with which face? How many of you have noticed that Miss Stacy can look like, oh my God, she's like the thinker, thinking so hard. And yet, once I started getting to know her, I figured this woman's funny. This woman's funny. This woman's playful. This woman has a heart as big as the horizon, and she's doing a real good job not showing that. And so I said, Stacy, you're doing a great RBF. Everybody want to do an RBF? Yeah, well, guess what? What percentage of human emotion is communicated without one word being spoken? What do you think, Stace? What percentage of our emotion gets communicated without even talking about it?
Probably 70% or more.
Girl, you're right. One study says 68%, but the major study says 93%. How about that? So guys, humor for hope. Laugh at ourselves, be playful, and you'll become truly powerful. Okay, the second part of hope, I'm checking my time here, is originality. And I'm going to ask you, Stacy, I'm on your case again because I want you to read Queen Latifah. What did Queen Latifah say about being true to herself?
Be bold, be brave enough to be your true self.
Are you doing that, Miss Stacy? I think you are, but do you believe you are?
Some days people see Pepsina and they don't even know it.
Yep. Okay, here's the truth. When we are our true self, that's what Dr. Carl Jung said, my friends, you know him. He said, when we are being our true self, we are powerful. So I can't pretend I'm somebody else and be powerful. If I'm trying to impress somebody, kids are going to see right through me, and adults are too. So Miss Stacy, do you have to be perfect to be true to yourself? Can you read us what our buddy Fred said?
Nobody else can live the life you live. And even though no human being is perfect, we always have the chance to bring what's unique about us to life.
Okay, honeys. Yeah. So I'm 75 and I'm looking at this turkey neck. I'm looking at COVID weight. And you know what? When I was 20, I'd look at myself and see the faults. Now I decided that I'm 75, I'm going to look in the mirror and say, what's good about me? And I do. And you know what? Every time I look in the mirror, instead of giving myself a hard time, I see my eyes. And I see those eyes have been through a lot in life, and they are loving eyes. And so no matter how much turkey neck I got, that ain't mattering. You got me? Miss Stacy, what doesn't matter to you anymore that you used to think mattered?
What people think.
Thank you so much, honey bunny. Okay, and Maria, can you read us what this guy, we all know he had go ahead, sweetie. I want to hear what Einstein said about, you're a genius. You might not think you are, but can you read this to us, Maria?
Yes. Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid.
Have you ever seen, Maria, a child that has been stereotyped? And the child, yeah, go ahead, sweetie.
Yes, yes.
And what helps that child get out of that?
I have been seeing children in a child in the classroom that is already can be name it because putting names on them because it's something. But with the love of the teacher, the right teacher, they have been able to be the fish, you know, to be them.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sweetheart. I have a son who's 37 today, but he was in diapers until he was 7. He drooled so much, I would send to preschool, I'd send like these cotton bandanas so the teacher could like take them off when they were soaking wet and put them back on so he looked like a little cowboy. He's a genius. Anything you want to know about Marvel characters, he knows that. But I have to sit and listen. Otherwise, I can miss it. Everybody's a genius. Thank you, Einstein. And Miss Laura, can you read us? We don't know who said this, but can you read us this thing about healing doesn't mean?
Healing doesn't mean the damage never existed. It means the damage no longer controls our lives.
Okay, guys, here's the truth. Everybody has pain. You know that song? We all got pain. We all got sorrow. For it won't be long before I need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, sister, when you need a hand. Thanks for listening to my voice, but that's the point. Everybody's wounded. Everybody's wounded, and we can help each other because of that, rather than put ourselves down. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. That this part about being original. Queen Latifah said, you know what? Just be yourself. She's off in Newark, New Jersey, where she's from. She and Cory Booker, both from the same city. They are helping like a Habitat for Humanity thing. Nobody knows it. She's being true to herself. And guys, what do you see when you look at this picture? Ms. Bridge, what do you see when you look into this picture?
Confidence. You might be a little kitty cat, but you can be king of the jungle there. It's all about confidence and how you perceive yourself.
Have you ever felt like that?
That I need to do deep down look and find that? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Does it come easy? Not always. No.
No. Guys, it's hard. We all first look at our faults. We all first look at the zits we got, the turkey neck, all that stuff. That's natural. But we can choose to say, wait a minute, what have I got that's a strength that I can share today? And look, children are like the little kitten. They're looking at us, and what do they see? A big old lion, big old strong lion. And we're thinking, So remember, you're braver than you think and stronger than you imagine. And so now let's keep rolling with our last few minutes. The third part of hope is perspective. And Stace, I want you to read this one because I'm loving it. And because Eleanor Roosevelt, we all think of her as a strong woman, but she was raised in an abusive situation. Alcoholic uncle would try to break into her door at night. She was scared to death. What did she say about keeping perspective no matter what? Read both of the boxes, please, Stacy.
You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing you think you cannot do.
And the minute I do the thing I think I cannot do, my confidence returns. And I think, oh my God, I did that. I can't believe it, but I did it. So you know what? How many of you guys have seen this? We think we're going to go from point A to B. Honey, nuh-uh. We go up, down, all around, all over the place. And that's how we get things done. And it's all about forgiving myself because I'm human. You know what? That's a big part of hope. It's accepting myself as a human being. Okay, Stace, you're right there with me. Read this one to us about not trying to control other people.
It's not your job to detox toxic people. It's your job to detox the part of you that resonates with their toxicity.
Can you explain that, Miss Stacy?
Yeah, you don't have to fix people. Just know what triggers they set off in you so you can manage it.
You got it, honey. There are 3 triggers I have as a trauma survivor. The first one is if somebody gives me the message, you don't belong, you're an outsider. The second one is if someone tells me it's all your fault, and it always was. And the third thing is if somebody tells me it'll never get better. Those are the messages that I got as a small child. Any one of those can trigger me. Or I can say, thanks, but no thanks. Thank you, but no thank you. Not today, not today. So there's the serenity prayer. Maria, we got a powerful thing here from the 12th century, and I'm going to ask you to read it because what it's saying about perspective, and then we need to wrap, is no matter what comes my way, whether it's negative, awful, pandemic, somebody dying, losing somebody I care about, greet that problem at the door, laughing, because it's bringing me a message of growth. So Maria, could you read that to us, please, sweetie, the dark thought?
The dark thought, the shame, the malice, the meet them at the door, laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
I love it. Thank you. So anything that comes my way, I can learn from. A flower can grow in the desert. And guys, the last piece in our remaining minute is emotional clarity. And that means not running from my feelings. And so here's what Paulo Coelho said. He said, I learned long ago that to heal from my wounds, I have to have the courage to face them. So for me, as a trauma survivor, every time I feel panic welling up in me and I think I got to run for the hills, I turn around when I'm able to and I say, Lord, help me here. I'm getting scared and I could lose it in a minute. Or I call somebody, or I start dancing. I don't care what I look like. I just start dancing. It's like our other buddy said. And also, if we choose hope, what we're doing, my friends, hope is love. Hope is loving ourselves and being just kind to ourselves and saying, I'm not perfect, but I'm good enough. Hope is seeing the beauty in every child. Hope is loving the possibility in every moment. So remember, our brains can take us down or our brains can lift us up. It's about choice. Remember, hold on, pain ends. This is what life looks like. Anybody felt this? OMG, OMG, this, that's what it can feel like, or it can feel like this. It's a choice. I'm not saying I'm always ready to make that choice, but I invite you to recognize that what this woman, Pema Chodron, said, she had a tough time. She said fear and feeling ill at ease, that's inevitably what we feel before we take a risk and make a change. So if you're uncomfortable or I'm starting feeling like I'm getting a panic attack, guess what? I ask myself, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And I end up doing some beautiful things. And so Stace, can you bring us home? What's that writing on the right-hand side? What does it say it's not about?
It's not about forcing happiness. It's about letting the sadness win.
It's about not
letting the sadness win.
Woo, girl, that's a biggie. Because the sadness comes like it's there, it's always there. Sometimes I just have to cry and let it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about forcing. It's not like pretending. It's about letting go of giving that control. And so Stace, read this, please.
If you have hope, you have everything.
All right, honey, that's what I want to send you home with. By the way, that's me as a little girl. My mother was mentally ill. I'm 3 years old, not quite. And I'm looking at the photographer holding my hand like this saying, can't you see? I need you to get me out of here. And yet, going through that experience, I would never wish trauma on any child, but it helped me become my best self. It helped me embrace my difficulties. It helps me love the unlovable parts of myself, like my hair's going wacky and I'm gonna give a sweet bippy. I got Einstein hair, noogies. And it helps me connect to joy and beauty in other people. And I know, okay, guys, I'm gonna ask everybody to unmute and make a big mess. We don't have to get this coordinated or not, but we are at the end of our time. And thank you guys so much for considering hope. Can you read this with me? And Stacy, can you lead us through it, you and Maria, about whatever you do? Ready?
Yeah.
Whatever you
do, hold on to hope.
The
Tiniest threads will twist unbreakable cord.
And hope
Anchor you in this
Possibilities. This is not the end of your story.
Change will bring you the peaceful shores.
I love it. I love it. Guys, we're at the end. I went over time. Thank you so much. Does anybody we got to go. Hey, do you guys need to wrap up and say anything, Ms. Bridget or anybody, or can we just wish each other well?
No, thank you so much, Holly and Lisa, as always. It's so wonderful to hear you speak and share with us the 2 hours of your time and wisdom. We thank you so much.
Guys, thank you, sweetheart. And when you get my book, there's a lot of humor in there. I was a little kid that managed to laugh no matter what was going down. So I want to thank Miss Stacy. Let's give Stacy a woot, woot, Maria, woot, woot, Bridget, woot, woot, Evan, woot, woot. Everybody who shared, yes. Everybody who didn't share, yes. And now can everybody unmute? And across the board, across the miles, across the screen, can you be loud and disorganized and just wish everybody well for the year coming up? You ready for this?
Wish you well. Love everybody.
A great day and year, everyone.
Thank you. Wish you well.
Wish you well, everyone.
Here. Hoping the best.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. My pleasure being with you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kwame. Thank you, everybody.